programme last night called Stuart Lawrence, Has Britain Changed? And the panel was discussing racism in the UK since the death of his brother back in 1993. And Stuart joins us now from South London. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
No, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
And I watched the programme last night, and it was really fascinating, actually, to kind of have the time to be able to examine these issues, to examine people's views on whether racism has changed over the last 27 years. And from your point of view, when you look back now, because we all remember after your brother's death, there was a real moment, wasn't there, where we thought, this is it, change is going to happen, things can't continue as they are, and yet it seems like not enough change has happened over those years.
No, not enough change has happened, and this is what we was talking about last night, how since 1999, since my first report, only a handful of recommendations has been adopted by the police. Some of the more recommendations that were for education has been taken into consideration and been implemented. But that would have been a start there to implement all the recommendations from us first, and that would show people how we would have moved forward. But because these things don't happen, that's why society, some parts of society don't feel like things have changed or will change.
It seems like some parts of society think that things have got worse. I'm looking at their poll result from this show last night, and they asked, in your view, has the level of racism in Britain increased or decreased during your lifetime? Now, they broke that up by race, and according to the white people that they spoke to, it's increased by 27%. BME increased by 32%, and the black people that they spoke to ask this question, they thought racism has increased by 34% in their lifetime. So for a significant number of people, they are saying that racism has actually got worse.
But you've only got to look at the news feeds that we see recently of the amount of black people who have been stopped to search. Those are just some of the common examples of why people don't feel like things have changed. And like we said before, if we have these initiatives of how things can be changed, recommendations are made, but not implemented, this is the reason why people don't feel like things have changed or ever will change. And that's what we have to do more of. We need to make sure we're implementing recommendations, changing policies, to make sure that everyone in society feels like we're moving forward some way.
Yeah, and just to clear this point, I mean, that for over 20 years ago now, Macpherson report, 1999, as you say, these points still remain outstanding. And just for people to take this in, they said this over 20 years ago. Black communities in particular are disproportionately represented in stop and search statistics. We hear that still today like it's new information. Black people are overrepresented in the criminal justice system. Police service hadn't met its target to employ 7% of its officers from ethnic minority communities. I mean, these are really quite fundamental, basic points that affect people's lives. They, literally affect people's lives. And it's just amazing that it hasn't happened for 20 years. I mean, why do you think it is, Stuart? Why hasn't it been done?
Because we're disrupting the status quo. And this is why now is a really good time for these changes to happen. We're now looking for that, and I don't really like that phrase, but the new type of normal, the way things we can go forward now since Corona has affected our lives. And that's why now is the time to really put forth these changes, really go right. Cool.
And who do you think should make these changes? I mean, do you have faith in Boris Johnson and his government, and the Prime Minister, for example?
Well, since before George lost his life, I've been saying I'm willing to sit down with Boris to talk to him about some of the things I think, in particular, could help to change this nation to make it a better place. And since then, I've just heard the same things come out of his mouth. I've heard some of his team say the same sort of things as well. It's about changing the rhetoric of 400 years. This is what we keep on talking about as well. Institutions and establishments have been set up in such a way that black people have been suppressed. We have been put to the side. We have not been seen as equal, and that's why now is the time. We need to make sure that blacks, Indians, Chinese, whoever we are, everyone is equal, equality for all.
So when you look at things like, the makeup of the British cabinet, the government ministers at the top, do you think actually, on one hand, they're saying, yeah, we're taking it seriously, but on the other hand, there isn't that diversity, is there?
No, there isn't, and this is what I was saying yesterday, how we have to show representation from all walks of this nation, because it gives the young people an understanding that that could be me. I could get to the top table. I could get to be in the FTSE 100 companies. I could be running a company that would be a CEO of a company. These are the things that we need to do. I also say to people all the time, I became a school teacher because I remember that at school there was one black school teacher. So that was my aspiration, to be a teacher. I never had aspirations to be a deputy head teacher or a head teacher because I never saw it in my lifetime. So wouldn't it be great that we could show our young people all the possibilities that they could become, rather than just being either into music or into football? That's the limits of your abilities.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, I remember the one thing I heard a lot in the Black Lives Matter protest, when you speak to, or you heard from young protesters on the streets or people on television shows, even here, I think that a lot of black people would say that I'm tired. I'm just tired of saying the same thing over and over for 20 years. Now, I said something on the show yesterday which is a little bit controversial, but I just feel that actually this now isn't about the black community doing something. It is about the non-black community making the difference and making the change. And I look at the example of, let's say, and I do other minorities. I look at the gay community. I think the reason why the gay community has become more acceptable in the workplace, in society, in the media, is because the heterosexual community have done far more to welcome them in and to make sure they can stand up for themselves. The same with the recent Me Too movement. We as men have had to change our attitudes and learn and listen to women and change the way we behave. And from a race point of view, is the solution real at the end of this? Stuart, you can shout as much as you like. We can see as many protests as we like. But it's the non-black community changing their behaviour and making those changes to see a better future in this country.
Exactly. We're 3% of the country. So therefore, if we're only 3%, how can we enforce this change that we're looking for? We need allies. We need more people to understand. And you're exactly right. We are sick and tired of talking about the same things over and over again. And this is why people are saying, this fight isn't my son's fight. This is my fight here and now. As adults, we know what needs to be done. We just need to get it done. And we do need allies. Like I said, we're 3%. So I need the other cultures in this country to come together to help this matter at the moment, which is Black Lives Matters, to make sure there's equality, black equality for the black race.
And Stuart, how much of an opportunity do you think there is now? The whole world was shook by the death of the killing of George Floyd. We've seen worldwide protests. Everybody, it seems, has actually sat up and listened to those voices, haven't they? There's that great feeling at the moment. Do you think this will be the time when we will see change? Or do you feel like, we all thought that, didn't we, 27 years ago, that this was the time for change? And then 27 years later, we're still talking about the changes that need to be made. Do you fear that that might happen again? That, a few years down the line, we might be saying, what happened? Why haven't we implemented the changes that everyone was calling for as part of those protests?
No, definitely, because, and this is what also we need to say as well, it's not going to happen overnight. This is not going to be the end next week where you say, oh, everything's better. It's going to take time to implement. It's going to take time to change these policies, these laws, the way that we used to do things. Because like I just said, this whole setup of life has been set up on oppression, putting one culture, one race down and elevating another race higher than that. So it's going to take a bit of time, but I have to have hope. I have to have hope, because if I don't have hope, then what's the point of me coming to these programs, me, campaigning, me speaking to other people? What's the point of it if I don't feel like it's going to change? And I can just keep saying, I am going to keep on fighting about this. I'm going to keep talking about this, because this is for me as an adult now with other adults to solve, so that our children's future can be better than what this future what looks like here today now. That's what we've got to do. So we've just got to keep on. Like I said, I'm going to keep on speaking out and saying that after that. I do believe Boris, he's my best port of call, because we go to the top and it starts from there. It will have a beautiful crescendo effect where it will then reach all the other places that we want to reach to, the education, the policing. All these things will change.
Stuart, you're highly commendable on what you're doing so many years later, and you're still speaking out. It is the greatest honour you can place for your brother Stephen. You should know that. And I think all of us will take a message from what you're saying and join you on that fight. Thanks for joining us, Stuart Lawrence.
Yeah, just before I go, just wanted to say as well, It's one of my school friends' young son's birthday today. Like, and there's also, just before I go as well, there was an incident in Woolwich a couple of days ago where a young boy on a bus, 17 years old, you know, was racially abused and then physically hurt in Woolwich 2 days ago. And this is what keeps on people saying to me, even kids, oh, we've come a long way, things have changed. We haven't. If that can happen today in this society, then we haven't changed enough.
You're right.
We haven't. We haven't.
Absolutely right.
Absolutely right. Stuart, thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us.
No,
this
thank
morning.
you. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Oh, well.